about like 13, 14 degrees timing before. Now this is less than nine degrees timing. So like, give it what it wants. Sometimes you give too much timing, you could lose power. You're trying to make more power, but you give it what it wants. The cylinder pressure will tell the story. It'll tell you what it wants. Not more time. More time is not always good timing. It needs it right where it needs to be at. And then I kind of play around with that, and I kind of tell. But this next run, it should be a lot better overall, like everywhere, or the whole thing everywhere. So, like I said, we're not chasing power, but I am chasing a faster spool. I am chasing a power band. I'm chasing a curve. I want it to look a certain way, and I wanted to, because the way it looks and how it builds is the way how it's going to feel and perform. So, so far so good. Not a bad pass in the first one. To be honest with you, it probably would have made more if I revved it out. I stopped it right there. So I stopped it at 7. So like, I didn't want to keep going, but the way how it was climbing, it probably would have been up there, the higher 600 range. I don't think it would have made more torque. It probably would have made more horsepower, or the torque probably would have been the same. Maybe you would have saw like 550, maybe. But I think the horsepower would have been like in the 680s, 690. But this next pull, I'll stay in it as long as everything looks good. I have the protection stuff in place for it in case anything happens. But I'll stay in it and rev it out some more, and this way we can see. This way we don't have to do as many pulls. Let's see what it does from down low and up top. I just like making my transition stuff, and then we'll go from there. So the car you have more potential. I know you're talking about going with you want to go with a certain size turbo. I think, personally for me, I think you should go with a 64. 64 on these things are super, super, super sweet spot on Evos. Especially for this 2.2 liter. 2.2 liter just lights up like crazy, bro. I've seen 2.2s, 64.66, Gen 2s, older models, Precisions, making like high 800s, 900 wheel horsepower. When some 2.0s struggle to even make that. So for you, future-wise, you can go with that. It's not a problem. For what you're currently working with, I think your current setup has more in it. I think if you get a bigger feed line for your fuel, you already have the injectors, so that's going to help there too. Your regulator, it's not bad. It does what it needs to do. I personally have seen, I've seen it on Haltech, and I did back-to-back passes on a customer car, the Black Evo that I went to FL2K with. We ran an air motive, and I mimicked the fuel pressure, the graph on that. Then we put in a Weldon regulator, and I mimicked the log on that. It's for boost to boost, it saw more fuel pressure at the same boost level all the way straight through. That alone would drop your injector duty as well. So I think with the more fuel delivery, and the biggest thing is your gate pressure. So we're turning the boost up, we're doing everything like that, but your wastegate spring is kind of weak. So if you say it's 14, 15 pounds of boost, so what happens is it has to apply more pressure to keep it closed. Because what happens is when you start going up here, and that's a possibility of why it started sinking in right here. It probably needed more pressure, because that's what I did. This run right here is the same fuel map. I might have touched a little bit here, a little there. It's the same fuel map. I applied more gate pressures in certain places, so the whole thing has a good transition. So like, it probably started slowing down because the gate started opening, and then it probably started applying more pressure. It closed the gate, and the car started picking back up. Same thing it did on torque. Goes up, sags it, and it goes back up. So like, typically on something like this, you have to have the right spring pressure for both fuels. You can't be too strong. That's gonna hurt you on pump gas. But you have to have enough gate pressure so we're strong on E85. So you need, typically, the bare minimum lowest, I like to be roughly around like 20 pounds. I think 20 pounds on any turbo is manageable for pump gas and where it's not making too much. But that additional 5 psi of gate pressure extra will help keep that gate shut, so it makes that power band. The thing is, as soon as that gate starts opening up, it's going to slow down the power curve, and it's going to slow the turbo down, and then you're also going to see it on the dyno graph. As soon as it goes like this, any little bit of the shaft speed on the turbo starts slowing down, it will start showing it. Like your earlier runs, you had a little like it's very wavy in your earlier runs. It could have been not enough gate pressure or whatever like that, or maybe it was a little loose, or the settings need to be tightened up so it kind of holds and transition nice. This is also one less pressure than what you were at. You was at 38, 39. I think one of the pulls it was almost 40, but not there yet. But I know, those other runs I didn't really run at the red line, so I probably would have been almost at 40. How you came in, Now these last two runs, the first one was about 32 pounds, and then that one was about like 33, 34 ish, probably 34 and a half, maybe out the back, psi, and you're on less timing, less boost pressure than when you came in at. But now the power band picked up in between, so I set it up so I could tell the difference in the cursor. So from point to point. So from the transition of how you came in for point to point, you was at 389, in your earlier runs, and 400 or so. But now at the same point level, you're at the first run I did on my tune 420, and then the last one 435 at that point. Now let's go up in here where it really matters. So you can see at that point where you was at of how much extra you picked up. At that point where you was at, how much extra you're gonna pick up. All of this, as soon as it starts picking up more and carrying out straighter, this is what you're gonna feel. You're gonna feel it. When like your earlier runs, when it comes in and it was coming in like this, it get a little wavy, come in, get a little wavy. You're gonna feel that in the power band. You think you don't, but you're gonna feel that. But you want it to be a nice transition, nice and broad. If you have enough gate pressure, enough turbo, and the right timing, and get your fueling in order, you can make a power band look very nice, and you can make it start spooling and start coming alive early. And it's all about the transition of how much power you're making. That pull, that was your highest pull on your file you came in at 495. On the last one we just did 540 at that point in the RPM range. So you're seeing way more power from as soon as I start to run. You're seeing way more power. You're seeing way more torque. 495 foot-pounds on your highest run on how you came in, and then the last run at this point 540 foot-pounds. So you're seeing way more. Power curve is carrying nice. I think that there is a lot more left on the table. I feel like you're not chasing a number, so I don't even want to push more, because if I push more, what happens is it's going to demand more fuel.
Right.
And I don't want to demand more fuel if you don't got all the fuel. Yes, you have a double pumper, you have decent sized injectors, you have a regulator, you have all the stuff, but you still need. It don't matter if you have all the stuff. The fuel still has to go from the tank to the rail, and it can only go at so much pressure, at so much speed, on the restriction of the size that you already have. So if you go with a bigger feed line, then that speed of how much it goes from the tank to the rail, of how much it flows, how much pressure it can build of the rail pressure, and you're by upping that, your duty's gonna drop. So to be honest with you, even on the current injectors, I ain't gonna lie to you, even on the current injectors, if you upgrade your line size, and maybe if you wanted to upgrade your regulator, to the Weldon, you will probably see a lower duty without touching anything. Without that, because you have restrictions. You currently have restrictions right now. So you'll probably see a lower duty without touching anything. Injector data is set up correctly now, because that wasn't right, that was off. Injector timing, so there's injector timing settings. That was very weird how I saw it was very like all over the place, but now that is smoothed out. Timing is smoothed out overall for ignition timing. The main thing too is your base timing. Your base timing was off, and the setting that you put the base timing in to activate it so you could check it with the gun, that was left on when you were tuning. So now that was turned off. That makes a difference too on how the car performs as well. You said it felt laggy and would have like that. So to be honest with you, this is kind of in the ballpark, you know. Like I've tuned many FP blacks, and they're roughly around the same range. They probably see a little bit less on the torque, but the horsepower rise is right up par for FP black. But the torque probably will be a little bit lower. But you are a full frame turbo, so you are going to see more. You're going to see a more beneficial everywhere between horsepower and torque and everything over a stock frame turbo. Because you are, we say 58 millimeter.
58.
So this is a 58. So it's not a big turbo, but this is a full frame and it's V-band on top of that. So you're also utilizing a better manifold than a stock placement manifold, like most, like 58, like FP blacks or like that.
And external gate too.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's external gate. But there is FP blacks that are external. I've done a few FP blacks right around like at that 700, 710, and 550. But that was also a 2.2 Myvec, and that was also external as well. So I think you're fine right where you was at. I think you're good. Like I said, I feel like you have more power left in it just by getting a stronger gate pressure and fixing the fuel demand to where we can lower the duty. If I could lower if the duty drops, then hey, bro. To be honest with you, if I can put this last pull at the same boost level when you first came in, if I do another pull like that, it will moonshine over this pull, you know, and you will be in the 700s. I don't know how much. I don't know where the limit is for the turbo before the turbo's out of breath. You don't want to run to the limit of the turbo being out of breath also, because eventually what's going to happen is it's just going to blow hot air. You're not going to make more power. You actually, more hot air it takes in, it'd be more prone to detonation and knock. So you want to keep it efficiency. It's all about everything running efficient. It's making power. It feels good. It drives good. It starts good. It accelerates good. Every gear change feels strong, and that's mainly my goal of when I tune these cars. I know the system. I know the Haltech. So when I went in there and I saw how certain things are, because I do so many Evos, I could already tell this stood out, that stood out, this stood out, that stood out, this stood out, that stood out. Like there's so many things that was standing out. So I was like, let me just stop and just change everything at a time. And just off of one run, I made one run and it already made more power than how you came in. Just off one run. The second run was after I saw the things I need to change based off of my previous run, and the car made more. Now, there's more in it. I can make another run and make more in it, but I don't want to. I don't want to keep the duty screaming, because, you know, it could get colder outside. You can see more boost pressure. It could change certain things. And or if you take this car and if you want to go to Tennessee, to the mountains, or you do something out of Florida, out of the state, and then the elevation in the air is different. I don't want things to be like right at the edge, and then you go somewhere else, now the car can't breathe, it's not performing. So it's good. I got the drive-by-wire. I set it up for you already. That's good. Everything else is running healthy as it could be. I'm gonna just go in there. I'm gonna test out the drivability, make sure everything feels good at all levels of speed. I'm gonna test it out from 35 miles per hour to 90 miles per hour. I went to Denver and I tuned an Evo and I tested it at like 75 miles per hour. I thought that was pretty average. He called me back. He was like, "Hey, it runs a little rich." I'm like, well, okay, well, at what speed? He's like, "Oh, well, over here in the mountains, we drive 95 miles per hour up here." And I was like, "Bro, I never even took the car cruising in fifth gear at 90 miles per hour." So like, I'm gonna test it at high speeds wherever it's this way. It's good through everywhere. Temperature stays good. So what I also did was I configured the fans to come on a little bit stronger, because what happens is I saw the temp was started beforehand. The first two runs, the temp was like 201. So I went in there, I controlled the fans for the duty to come a little bit stronger. earlier and stronger, even more stronger if it passes 200. This way, keep it cool. Every single run I've did, it's always been at 186, and the runs have always started at like 179, 181, and by the time I finish with the run, it's at 186, 189. So now it's like night and day cooler now as well. So that's also going to help keep things in order. The cooler and the more consistent you keep the temperature of the coolant, the AFRs stay more consistent. The hotter the coolant temperature gets, you start getting in the 200s, mid 200s, upper 200s. It's gonna go richer because it's trying to dump more fuel. So I think hopefully we get everything going and we'll go for a little test drive and you'll be able to feel the difference.
Sounds good.
All right, so now we have everything dialed in between all your tables. Everything is actually performing and behaving like it needs to. Your fuel trims is right on the money. So remember I told you before, I like it between -1 and 5. That means at this 0 point whatever, that means it's barely making any adjustment to get it to that perfect AFR target of an idle. That means if your wideband sensor ever quit the bed, the fuel map itself is properly tuned, and it's not saying it's relying so much on the oxygen sensor for it to run properly, or even to read properly at a proper AFR reading. So at idle, it's perfect. It's perfect. We're gonna go for a cruise. Let's see what it's like during cruising, and we'll and just get up to speed, and we'll double check. Let's make sure the fuel trims look good then too. On the transition, you'll see it kind of like adjust itself. But what I do is mainly once I get it and it's in solid state cruising, then what does it do? And how does it read? So. Perfect on the money. For the fuel trims, for the target, we're going about 62 miles per hour. Perfect on the money of where it needs to be at for your fuel trim reading. ECU is barely making any adjustment. It's right where it needs to be. Come down at idle, it doesn't drop, it doesn't kill, it doesn't nothing. It just slowly comes down. And it comes right back to where it needs to be. And the fuel trims is still right on the money for where it needs to be. So overall, like fueling map, the tune itself is now properly optimized and ironed out. Everything is how it needs to be. Injector data, everything. So we're gonna go through some stuff for your rolling anti-lag. So I got your rolling anti-lag now on the can pad, and so now whenever you trigger it, right now it's in off state, and I'll press it, it's in on state. So it don't matter what RPM you're at, don't matter where you're at. I already made adjustments to the ignition timing and the fueling. So like it'll activate. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start making adjustments to get it spicy, start building some strong boosts. This way it runs good. So we'll go from there. Rolling anti-lag, all those pulls, cruising, idling, hitting rev limiter, everything. I want to see what the plugs look like. Can't fake the funk. and the plug quality. So take a look at that, zoom in on that so you can see. That is what the plug quality is supposed to look like. Now it's all the shininess is already burnt off, so that means the tune is right where it needs to be. You don't want no shiny coat on the strap, you know. This is really, really good. The fuel mixture is on point, timing's on point. It's not overly fueled, it's not underly fueled, it's not overly timed, it's not underly timed. It's right where it needs to be for how this car needs to be healthy and perform. All right, go ahead. Bro, and that was shifting slow, bro. I felt your back end squat so hard.
That's because I'm still not used to that pedal yet.
How'd that feel?
Great, man. Way better.
All right, so we're gonna test out the rolling anti-lag, go a little bit quicker. Slow it down, bro, slow it down, slow it down, slow it down.
All right, guys, time to wrap this video up. So I'll give you my overall thoughts on the tune. We had some hiccups, but none in relation to the tune. I'll make this quick since it's a bit of a longer video. But as you can tell, the Evo made it home. Really no issues. Made a lot more power. The power band was kind of shifted to the left. So it's more of an enjoyable ride, especially when in boost. And overall, it's the smoothest it's ever been. With the stock ECU, the car always made power, but it always felt like a project car, kind of like rattly and rough and idling, kind of rough and all that stuff. But now it's the smoothest it's ever been on this build. So shout out to Desmond. Overall, he did an absolutely great job. Honestly, the knowledge, the patience, and overall the customer service he provided was unmatched. Honestly, that's one of the reasons why I picked him to do this. I've been talking to him for years, and customer service has always been a thing that stood out with him. Yeah, I'm not trying to build, once again, I'm not trying to build a crazy race car here that's breaking records. I just want a pretty nice street car, and I'm trying to perfect this 650 wheel horsepower kind of setup. But as you can tell, the car did great. The drive-by-wire as well is a lot better. Honestly, super smooth, and I'm starting to get used to the pedal height. So honestly, as I think as time goes on, I'll get used to it and it won't be an issue anymore. Unfortunately, we ran into some hiccups. First one being the wheel. I went ahead and got this fixed right away, and I got it fixed the very next day. I don't mess around when it comes to this stuff. You guys should know me by now. And then obviously, as you saw in the video, the last video, ended up damaging that pipe. So we went ahead and got a new one. Showed up this morning. Shout out to STM for quality products. As you can tell, these wells are phenomenal. Ordered this while it was still on the dyno, and it got here 3 days later, so this is great. Additionally, while doing some test drives with Desmond, I accidentally hit a dip. I took my eyes off the road, just being overwhelmed with the power that the car made. And this side hit a pretty nasty dip. And when I got home, I noticed that this wheel was very cambered, and it was very concerning. I was pretty worried that I bent something. I didn't hear anything or anything like that afterwards, but the wheel was just kind of cambered in pretty significantly. So luckily, shout out to Josh. He works at BMW, and he let me put the car on the lift. And it ended up being the camber bolt just kind of got shook. So that kind of saved me from potentially something pretty bad happening. So we're good now, and everything seems good. I'm not messing around with this year with this car. I will be racing at the TRC event happening in actually 6 days. So I'll be racing there. So I have some footage for you guys. So more content for you guys. Additionally too, I'm not messing around. So I'll give you a little hint as to what's coming up next. As you can see, we got some new shoes. So not messing around this year. All right, so my plan is to try to make this build as complete and as clean as possible. That's my goal for the year. So thanks for joining me in this journey. Shout out to Desmond. Shout out to everybody who helped with this build. Appreciate y'all joining me, and I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out. Peace.